Namaskar and welcome to ESG Talks, brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We are here at India's premier circular economy complex situated at Bhavana, New Delhi. And to help us understand what is the concept of circular economy all about and how do we transform waste to wealth, please welcome Mr. Masood Malik, Chief Executive Officer, Re-Sustainability Limited. Namaskar and welcome.
Namaskar.
So help us describe this location, because I believe while it looks very beautiful today, once it was a mountain of waste.
Correct. I think this is a story of transformation that is in front of you. This is a facility here where we receive about 2,500 tons of waste every day. And that waste is fractionated, separated into different components. There is the compostable fraction from where compost is made, and then there is the combustible fraction which we process further into RDF. It is that waste that is then taken to a power plant, and a 24 megawatt power plant is run using that waste as fuel. So progressively from a mountain to what we think is an eco resort. This is the transformation story of Delhi Waste Management Limited. That's the transformation story that the company Re-Sustainability is all about.
Tell us more about the company Re-Sustainability Limited, because while you've been in this business for 3 decades, you call that this is a startup.
Correct. It is one of the largest integrated waste management companies in all of Asia. It was the company that defined this sector in India, whether it is in terms of industrial waste, biomedical waste, municipal solid waste, especially waste to energy, etc. It was the pioneer. However, we think waste management, and in particular processing of waste, recycling of waste and circular economy, is an idea whose time has come. And given that most of the waste in India is yet to be utilized in a manner that harnesses its resource potential, we think that as a culture, as a business, as people, our culture should be that of a startup. And therefore we define ourselves as a 3-decade-old startup.
It is an environmental unicorn, and interestingly we hear this word circular economy so often these days. Help our viewers understand what is circular economy all about.
What is happening today is referred to as the linear economy. Linear economy, in simple words, is you take natural resources, you make products out of it, and once the products have run their useful life, you throw them. This cycle is transformed from a linear process to a circular process by bringing in elements of recycling, resource recovery, including energy recovery, so that the same resources are put back into the economy again and again and again. Through the process of recycling, through the process of resource recovery, and finally, if it cannot be recycled, through the process of energy recovery, so that utilization of a resource is maximized, the demand for new resources is limited, and therefore eventually the consumption pattern of our economy becomes more sustainable. The energy footprint, carbon footprint, water footprint of whatever we are doing today as a society and as an economy becomes more sustainable.
So that means in linear economy, it's take from Mother Earth, make a product, and then consume and throw it.
Correct.
Whereas you're saying in circular, after you make, you recycle and there is an infinite loop.
Correct.
That's why circular.
That is circular, yes.
So has the world endorsed it? Where is India when it comes to bringing in circular economy initiatives in our businesses?
Our culture, our history is that of circularity.
Right.
If you look at the way we grew up and our forefathers grew up, very little was wasted.
Yes.
It is only in recent years that we have lost that element of our history and our culture, and we have taken on this take, make and throw as part of our lives. In reality, circularity is part of Indian ethos, and the journey towards circularity is actually back to our roots. And the reality is that even today, it is unfortunately cheaper to throw than to recycle. And I don't see that necessarily as a problem of recycling. I feel that is because the virgin products are being subsidized.
So we don't have the real value of those products.
Correct. If we don't value a natural resource correctly, then automatically there is a tendency to not really understand that what is truly worth.
So do you think that is where the role of finance professionals like chartered accountants become very important?
Absolutely. I think the first principle of accounting is valuation.
Yes.
And to understand the real value associated in our natural resources, but also in our wastes, is extremely important, because that is what gives the impetus for not throwing it away, for recycling it. For example, if water is seen as a infinite commodity which has no value, then it's very easy to waste it.
Yes.
But you should ask a person who has scarcity of water. You should ask a community where there is drought, and you will find out that the scarcity value of a resource is much, much higher, many hundreds of times higher than the abundance value of a resource. So the concept of scarcity value is something that I think accountants understand intrinsically, but accounting does not capture it today. The moment these concepts are factored into how we look at our balance sheets, how we look at business risks, but also business opportunities, I believe that the entire paradigm of circular economy from a concept will become not just real, it will become mainstream. It will be the way we live.
ESG is more important today than ever for well-functioning businesses, for sustaining inclusive growth in society, preservation of natural resources, upholding the interest of all stakeholders and adding to their growth. An ESG mindset and acquiring ESG competence are essential for business leaders for effective decision making and long-term success.
ESG is very important for the current and future breed of professionals. Recognizing the need, ICAI has incorporated sustainability in its new scheme of education and training. I strongly believe that the culture of sustainability needs to be imbibed in the children right from day one. If that happens, then we will be able to build a sustainable planet and live through our future generations.
Many would say, Mr. Malik, that when you talk about circular economy, it is a domain of environmentalists like you. What could finance professionals do in this domain?
Let me share my realization with you. After 25 years of being an environmentalist, I have come to a conclusion that it is actually the finance professionals, especially the accountants, that matter. If the resources equation is not correctly valued, I believe that the circular economy potential will never be realized. If recycling as a principle does not take into account not just the economic value add, but the environmental value add, the carbon value and the other energy and resource value that is embedded in the recycling, the commercials of recycling will never make sense. To make all of this come together in a cohesive business context, we need accountants, and accountants who are actually, like I said, more than just environmentally literate, they need to be environmental experts.
And you'll be happy to know that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in February 2020 did start SRSP, Sustainability Reporting and Standards Board.
Indians have always been promoting the culture of circular economy. India's tradition of using a product till its full worth has been utilized is going to show the path of circular economy to the whole world, and chartered accountants will be the enabler for the same.
To help our viewers understand more about waste to wealth, first and foremost, in our country, daily, how much waste is generated?
Overall, we are looking at something like 250,000 tons being generated across various categories in India today. Out of that, over 70 odd percent, 72%, about 180,000 tons per day is municipal solid waste.
Okay.
And therefore, the municipal solid waste, which is what is generated in our homes, is the largest constituent of the waste that is being generated in cities. Interestingly, the second largest waste category is construction and demolition waste.
Okay.
And that is also a very large quantity, and that is followed by industrial waste and other specialty, biomedical waste, electronic waste and other specialty wastes that are being generated.
In India, are we able to collect all waste, and then what happens to it?
I think one of the acknowledgements that we must give to ourselves as a nation is how the collection efficiency of our waste has improved over the last 5 years. Particularly since the advent of the Swachh Bharat program, most of the waste that is being generated in India is now actually being collected. I think the next benchmark or the next opportunity that is ahead of us is the fact that what is happening to all of these wastes. And I think processing of this waste, and in particular recycling and resource recovery, are the next priorities. And if you look at Swachh Bharat 2.0,
Yes.
the entire focus of Swachh Bharat 2.0 is on circular economy.
Circular economy. Some people perceive it as a rebranding of waste to wealth. Is circular economy only waste to wealth or a larger set?
That's a great question actually. I would suggest that we look at circular economy a little more holistically.
Okay.
Circular economy is a principle that goes beyond processing or recycling of waste. Circular economy includes principles to avoid waste generation,
Okay.
to lengthen the lifespan of a product, to design products to be more durable, including aspects that increase the utilization of a product.
Waste to landfill, the traditional approach, is not sustainable.
No, it is not. It is definitely not sustainable. In fact, every society has to understand that land is a finite resource, but waste is not finite. Consumption is not finite. And especially as a country develops, the per capita waste generation also grows. So that means our consumption patterns, as we become a more affluent nation, will increase the amount of per capita waste generation, and therefore how we manage it is a big part of our long-term sustainability as a nation.
And one way is to create picturesque spot like this.
Yes, I think transformation of waste is the opportunity, and the transformation starts actually before we come to a site, before it is even collected. It's how we imagine waste, it's how we think about waste. When new products are being designed, how you design the packaging, how you design the product itself has a significant impact on waste generation.
And that's why circular economy's canvas is so big, to include the design
Aspects,
and all of these
absolutely,
ideas.
absolutely. And I think some of those considerations, for example, make packaging such that it is easy to recycle, so that we can move to a future where the 100% of the waste that comes out of any product goes right back into the next product.
Yes. Sir, when it comes to waste management, I'm sure every viewer would want the waste managed, but not in their backyard.
Correct. But I hope that looking at this and several such facilities across the country, that mindset will change.
Absolutely. Can we also have a look at the waste to energy plant?
Absolutely, you're most welcome. Let's go.
You are watching Satat Vikas Sabka Prayas, an initiative of the ICAI. We are here now inside the waste to energy plant. We have with us Mr. Masood Malik, the environmental entrepreneur. Tell us more about the uniqueness of this plant.
I would just mention three very unique aspects of this plant. The first is that over half the footprint of this plant doesn't generate power. While it is a power plant, about half of its footprint is dedicated to pollution control, which basically means how is the emissions from the power generation cleaned. We believe it is very important to demonstrate, when we talk about circular economy, that circular economy does not have any residual environmental impacts. So when you make power from waste, it is to be completely clean power.
Okay. It's not as if the power that has been made has some side effect of environment.
Correct.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of concern around this in the early stages of waste to energy, where air pollution was a big concern, and rightfully so, associated with waste to energy. This is a 4th generation plant. In fact, our latest plant in India, which is in Hyderabad, is a 5th generation plant, but this is also a 4th generation plant which is completely compliant to European norms. The second aspect, which is I think we are very proud of, is that this is the first plant where the leachate is the liquid that comes out of the waste when you separate the waste into different types of waste fractions. Yes. This leachate is treated in a very unique and innovative technology. Typically water, evaporates at 100 degrees. Everyone knows that. Here we evaporate water at 58 degrees.
Okay.
What we do is we actually treat this leachate under vacuum, and what that does is it allows us a very energy efficient way of cleaning that and recycling that leachate. So this is it's probably the first time in the world that this technology, which is called MVR, mechanical vapor recompression, has been used to treat leachate, which is one of the environmental aspects of any waste management project. The third, that this plant over the last 5 years has set benchmarks of circular economy, because like I mentioned earlier, even the ash here is completely recycled. So nothing goes waste. There is 100% recycling of all the waste coming in, and that ash is used to make aggregates, tiles and construction products.
So from audit perspective, if any finance professional were to audit a facility like this, any plant across India, how do they measure these ESG impact, the fact that there is no residual impact?
I think today it is being assessed primarily by accountants as from a yes-no standpoint, binary standpoint. Is this a compliant organization, or are there non-compliances associated with it? But I believe that chartered accountants, especially with the new set of sustainability reporting standards coming in, will start going into natural resource accounting, carbon accounting, energy accounting, and that will then allow these plants to shine, to demonstrate that in addition to economic value, there is so much of resource value, environmental value that they are creating. And I think once that gets reported and that starts getting appreciated by our stock markets and by our analysts and by the rating agencies, I believe that sustainability will finally go mainstream. This is the face of waste management. It is not those visuals, those mountains of waste and those the environmental hazards and the safety risks that people are facing. This is the new face of waste management.
And as you said that if it has to be mainstream, the concept of circular economy, CAs have a role to play, otherwise it will just be a good concept, a good conversation.
Absolutely, and I believe that CAs are, chartered accountants are the accountability champions of India.
As consumers, we can purchase smartly designed products meant to be reused, refurbished and dismantled, find opportunities to go circular around the home. See what kind of products you have at home that could be refurbished into something else. Think of old jars, clothes no longer you wear, food waste, etc.
You are watching the program Satat Vikas Sabka Prayas, initiative of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We are in conversation with Mr. Masood Malik, CEO of Resustainability Limited. Thank you very much for giving us the tour of the waste to energy plant. But let me now ask you a question from consumer perspective. Many may feel that circular economy contradicts consumer consumption.
At the surface, actually it does appear so, because somewhere conservation is seen as an antonym, the opposite of consumption. The question here is not just consumption per se, but whether the consumption is sustainable or non-sustainable. And how can you reduce the carbon footprint, the resource footprint, the energy footprint, the water footprint of your consumption.
Prime Minister Modi said at the Glasgow COP26 that we should have mindful and deliberate consumption, not mindless and destructive.
Absolutely, very well said.
आज जरूरत है कि हम सभी लोग एक साथ आकर कलेक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन के साथ लाइफस्टाइल फॉर एनवायरनमेंट यानी लाइफ को एक अभियान की तरह आगे बढ़ाएं। ये एनवायरमेंटल कॉन्शियस लाइफस्टाइल का एक मास मूवमेंट बन सकता है। आज आवश्यकता है माइंडलेस और डिस्ट्रक्टिव कंजम्पशन के बजाय माइंडफुल और डेलिबरेट यूटिलाइजेशन की।
ICI hosted the World Congress of Accountants in November 2022, and it was a proud moment because first time in the history of 118 years that India hosted the World Congress, and the entire event was carbon neutral.
Yes.
And you were the sustainability partner to that event. Help our viewers understand, what does it mean to be a carbon neutral event?
The ICI World Congress, it was estimated by independent experts that we are talking about more than a little over 8,000 tons of carbon was estimated to have been incurred or generated during the course of the event. Now, how do you offset it? How do you make the event neutral? And that was done by Resustainability, by actually supporting a renewable energy project that was avoiding the generation of carbon emissions through generation of renewable energy by buying those credits from one of those operations, which is actually reducing the carbon or offsetting the carbon emissions, and then providing a certificate to ICI World Congress confirming that in lieu of your carbon emissions, we have offset over 8,500 tons of carbon from a renewable energy project.
So, in your interactions with the ICI, how do you see the Institute's role in nation building and also towards the G20 theme now that India has the presidency, and the theme is One Earth, One Family, One Future?
I think ICI and especially the community of chartered accountants will play a very central role in India's sustainability journey. It is not just about India's sustainability. India as the driver of global economy has also a significant impact on sustainability for the whole world. It's often said that the Sustainable Development Goals will either succeed or fail in India.
ESG is embedded in operations of any business. It's not big business, it could be MSME, any business.
You're absolutely right. In fact, what we call as Scope 3 emissions. In carbon emissions, there are three types of carbon emissions, Scope 1 and Scope 2, which are inside your boundary. And Scope 3, which are outside your boundary, your supply chain, your partners, your vendors, etc. That is really where the MSME of India has a significant role to play.
And as we come to conclude our conversation, how big is the economic potential of circular economy?
There are independent estimates that looking at just India, we are seeing circular economy as a $500 billion opportunity by 2030, which means in the near future, we are talking about $500 billion worth of opportunities associated with not just new products, which are circular economy enabled products, new business models, like I talked about, re-engineering of our manufacturing, but also from recycling of waste materials and energy from waste.
Right, and to help us understand the concept of circular economy in such simple manner, and for hosting the ICI team in your campus here, thank you very much, Mr. Malik. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Absolutely a privilege, Amit. Such a privilege talking to you.
Thank you.